Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be talking about Moleman and the incoming bug fix, because let's face it, if we are being purely technical, it is not a nerf, it is a bug fix, because he does not work as currently described in the game. And I will be giving, my full-on opinions, because it is nowhere near as simple and straightforward as Kabam or Forum White Knights would like you to believe. Because Kabam yet again has shot themselves in foot in several different versions here, in several different occasions in past, by setting countering precedents, and perhaps most importantly, by being fully aware of the situation for 16 months. So nearly a year and a half this has been in game, not addressing it, even when directly asked about it, because in past we have had many threads pop up asking this question. We had additional bug fix in regards to Moleman previously, and at that time as well, loads of people asked the question, and Kabam never actually acknowledged the fact that it is a bug, or that they are planning on changing it. On top of that, I have had conversations with Kabam employees as well, which basically stated that they had no plans in changing the way Moleman works at a time, and that was about half a year ago probably. The past precedents that they have set also include adjusting champion description in order to reflect how the champions function in the game currently. The one that most notably everybody remembers is probably Kamal Khan, where Kamal Khan was nullifying any buffs instead of just fury buffs, which was her ability description for a really long time. And then Kabam just decided that they will adjust Kamal Khan's ability description to reflect how she actually functions in the game. And that was a version of this where, they effectively improved the character by doing that. We have had a version of that where they adjust champion's ability description to make the character weaker as well. And that was the case with Domino, where Domino had an ability with her level 2 that increased her special attack damage quite significantly. And only after a year, people realized that it isn't working properly. It got brought up. That was a massive forum thread. Kabam ended up fixing Domino on their test servers, realizing that, oh wait, no, she does too much damage now. And then, whilst fully acknowledging that Domino was bugged since her release, they adjusted the ability description to reflect how Domino works in the game right now, in order not to make her more powerful. So we have two very kind of concrete examples of how Kabam has done these situations in past. In some cases pro player, in some places counter player, but the fact of the idea is that they amended the champion ability description to reflect how the champion functions in the game. And as the final point that I want to discuss, not too long ago, Kabam also fixed a very major issue with Ultron, in which case I was fully 100% behind Kabam doing so, because that was potentially game-breaking, because it had unlimited damage scaling with his level 3s, and he would make any Everest type of content in the future where he would be able to be used very laughable, because he could just scale his damage indefinitely. And I completely agreed with Kabam, even though they had let that bug exist in a game for over a year, I still agreed it had to be fixed, because it was going to present problems in the future. So before anybody else tells me that, oh, you're just screaming at Kabam because there's something to be screamed about, or saying that you're not being kind of like fair or objective in the situation, I have demonstrated a past precedent where Kabam has done exactly what they should have done with Moleman, in my opinion, which we're going to cover in a second. And B, not always when Kabam, fixes these issues or that results in champions being tuned down, I'm not always against them if they make sense. So now we can move on properly to the entire discussion. The only change that's going to happen to Moleman is the fact that he will no longer have his true accuracy whenever you enter Frenzy, no matter how many monster mass you have. However, it is a huge change, I think, and I think it will drastically decrease his champion ranking. I think it will drastically see, we will see a drastic decrease of Moleman in Alliance War, for instance, and a bunch of Alliance Quest stuff, and also in the questing things. Because individually, being able to prevent opponents evade, it's a useful ability, but it has to come with something else. We have tons of champions in the game that prevents opponents evade that either have true strike, true accuracy, something. The reason why Moleman's was so useful was because A, it activated at the beginning of the fight. You didn't need to get to level 1 or level 2. It was permanent. You didn't need to juggle the timers. It didn't rely on a buff or a debuff. It just was there, which obviously made it quite convenient to use. But nobody still would have looked at Moleman if it means that you would have no damage. The reason why people use Moleman in Alliance War is because you do have great damage, so you can close out the fights relatively quickly, and you can stop, evade, and auto-block. Virtually every fight that Moleman's taking in right now in AW, maybe with the exception of Path 4, where you can utilize the synergy that he has with Stand Your Ground and be able to block unblockable hits, I can easily see now, for instance, being given to Shang-Chi or Falcon instead, because they have better base damage whilst preventing evade. There's always this fine balance of the reason why you use champions, and when it comes to most competitive game modes, when it comes to getting to be on the top of the game, getting to be at the peak of the player's kind of go-to options, you always have to be virtually the best or one of the best options for like a specific set of scenarios. And the fact that Moleman could coexist with his damage and his utility was the reason to use it. Now, I do not by any means think that Moleman's going to be absolute garbage champion. No. He's still going to have access to the great damage, for instance, which in many fights is all you want, really. Because you can bleed on every hit pretty much, and, guaranteed crits, quite useful, and you can do a ton of damage. And then, on the other side, evade countering is still useful. It's just that for that, I don't think he's going to be used anymore remotely as much as he used to be. The additional piece of utility that he has being like, let's say, shock immunity and also being able to block unblockable hits, those are like much more niche. So I do see, should this change go through in the game, a significant decrease in the use of Moleman when it matters the most. More casual players will say that not much has changed. People who, I don't know, use Moleman to explore Act 5, for most part, who cares? As in, they're still gonna do it. They're not gonna see too much of a difference. Moleman's still gonna shred it. I didn't mean to sound like who cares about those people. Every player in this game matters, obviously. But in the less demanding piece of content, he's still obviously gonna be a great champion. Or if you just use him for his damage, he's still gonna have exact same amount of damage. The problem is that, yeah, you're gonna lose the reason to use Moleman in the hardest, most pressing, most kind of like hard to counter situations. And people will just look elsewhere pretty much immediately. So what should happen? I know a lot of people are screaming for rank down tickets. I disagree. I don't want a rank down ticket. And, I don't think that would be the correct thing for Kabam to do either. So even if they would announce right now that anybody, can get a rank down ticket for Moleman, I don't think there would be many people who would be like super satisfied about that. Because at the end of the day, catalysts are catalysts. And obviously they do matter. But not having the champion that you rely on kind of matters more, in my opinion. So I do think that the correct thing here would be just to amend his ability description to reflect of how he functions right now in the game and leave the rest of the things be, just like they did with Domino when they nerfed her, just like they did with Kamal Khan when they buffed her. Allowing for a bug to exist in the game for 16 months, for nearly a year and a half, whilst 100% being fully aware of it, and the players know that they are aware of it, without having any comment, acknowledgement about the fact that they are aware that this is a bug, that they are working to fix it, and then all of a sudden fixing it, does not sit right with me no matter how you slice it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. No matter which side you are looking at, whether you think Moleman should be changed or shouldn't be changed, nothing about Kabam's conduct here is objectively fair or decent or, you know, well communicated action. If you think Moleman should be changed and, you know, all the bugs should be fixed and every champion should immediately, you know, be kind of like double check that they function, how their ability description states, fair enough. In which case, the timeline of 16 months is unacceptable. The lack of any official public commentary is unacceptable, borderline misleading. Because you could quite convincingly argue that this is a malicious action where Kabam decidedly did not comment on this by leading players into investing in this champion, by leading players to rank up this champion, and then cut it off. As in, they knowingly, so to speak, set a trap for players. You could convincingly argue that. I'm not saying that that was the case, but just by the fact that they are aware of this issue for 16 months, never make a public comment on it, never acknowledge it as a bug in their list of bugs that they're working on, never telling us that they are working on it, and then fixing it out of the blue, definitely would be good basis for argument line that they did it on purpose to fuck over the players. Or, obviously, if you stand on the side where Moleman is perfectly fine as he is, he's not game-breaking, he doesn't have some sort of infinite damage scaling, he's not the best skill champion in my opinion, let alone the best champion in the game and completely dominating every game mode. Which, again, you know, then why change him? Why mess around with Moleman right now? So my personal opinion is fairly simple here. I do not think that he should be touched at all. I think regardless of what happens, Kabam has again found a perfect way how to piss off everybody, even people who would otherwise be, you know, much more willing to support them, by not having the decency to publicly comment on it for 16 months and then coming out of the blue. Also, with the fact that they have in past set a precedent where they showed that this did not have to happen. This did not have to be treated as quote-unquote a bug fix. They could have easily approached it the same as they did with Domino or Kamal Khan, or I'm sure some other champions that I'm forgetting about, where they amend the description to reflect how the champion currently functions in the game. And ultimately, I think quite often we are getting used to with the idea that whenever there is a tricky situation or a decision to be made, Kabam is going to make the worst one. And, you know, if they had given us a proper heads up, you know, it would suck. But at the very least, we would know it was coming, we'd be prepared for it. A lot of people wouldn't have taken him to rank 4, for instance. That would have gone a really long way, but they chose not to do that for 16 months. Or they could have chosen to leave Moleman as is, which is obviously the road that would make players the happiest. So whenever faced with a tricky situation, again, Kabam seems to be frequently dedicated in making the worst decision possible, the one that is going to piss off the most players, the one that is the hardest to defend. Again, you can approach it to a bug fix, but then don't pretend that Kabam's behavior over the past 16 months is justifiable in any manner. What I'm getting at is, no matter what you think about Moleman, you should be pissed at Kabam, because this entire situation is their making. And, you know, it's quite surprising to me that I see, you know, people defending Kabam here, because there is no defense on it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If it's a bug, acknowledge it, let people know that you're working on it, like you do with every, you know, most of the other bugs, as far as, you know, that especially are brought up to light. Moleman's bug has been brought up, and directly people have been reaching out to Kabam and asking about it. Not once they ever bothered replying. Or if you were fine with it for this long and you're not fine about it anymore, well, you know, when it gets tough, you made your decision, stick with it then. If you were fine with it for a year, stick it out then. But in reality, unfortunately here, like all the conspiracy theories are coming in, I already have heard a ton of conspiracies here that we will either have a big piece of content or a very kind of like prominent champion that's going to come into game that they probably wanted to either Moleman proof or that would have worked as a... There are several theories here that I think one of them is definitely going to come through. just out of interest to finish this on a bit more speculative light note, it would be very on brand for Kabam if they released a gear that allowed Moleman to do what he currently did, so they can sell you the gear when they come out, and Moleman, you know, can keep his frenzy, his true accuracy in frenzy. So one theory was that they're going to release a gear that allows him to do that. Second theory is that they're going to release a synergy with another champion that would allow Moleman to do it, which would obviously make him more synergy dependent and worse off as a champion. And the third theory is that if they don't do this, Moleman would have demolished some future content that they are about to release, or a future champion like Quicksilver, for instance, or something like that. So it will be interesting to see which one of these is going to come through over the next several months. But ultimately, still, I do sincerely hope Kabam reconsiders what they're doing and just leaves Moleman the way he is right now. Let me know what you guys think, and I'm going to catch you guys later. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about